Hey everybody, welcome back to the Behaviour Revolution Scriptures. My name's Mark, and hasn't this been a phenomenal ride? Yahushua's been blowing my brains out through his living word, and that's what it's for, isn't it? To teach us and wash us clean and just perfect us, assist us in the process, his deliverance process of overcoming, And so I'm really excited about this new season. We've been picked up for another season. Yahushua's picked us up for season 3. Woohoo! So I'm very excited because I'll be honest with you, I've never gone near Leviticus before in my life, never wanted to. It was never taught to us back when we were in the circus in the church. So, and then of course we just thought, oh, it's not relevant to us. It's all behavior, it's all this, all that. So I didn't really want to go in there. I thought, oh, what's going to be in here? And the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've just been down this rabbit hole, just having a party. Just my brain has just been blown away. Just everything is about behavior, and we're going to see that. And let's just go into this and see where we end up. So we're into our third series, third book, third letter scroll that Moshe wrote. He wrote 5. So this is the middle one, and it's very exciting. This is the meat. We've gotten through the first 2 about the stories of how Yahushua's moving, and now we're coming to the meat of the instructions. So if you've made it this far, well done, because this is where you get to really understand Yahushua's mind. And remember, we're not doing this to mimic how they lived back then. We're doing this to understand how Yahushua feels about certain behaviors, so we can do it. So this version of scripture, the Behavior Revolution Scriptures, 𝗂𝗓𝗓, bringing Yahushua's eternal blood covenant of deliverance to all generations in the 21st century. We want to bring it to all generations, young and old. So this is one of our favourite scriptures. I hope you realise that the down and out, the drug addicts and the whores are becoming my bride before any of you religious vipers. Because I'm not here for those who think they're okay, but for those who know they're not. That's the crux of this translation, guys, this version. Yahushua's come to us down and out, lost, sick, stupid, pathetic assholes. That's what we are. Face it. Do you think you're anything better than that? I'm not. The only thing good about me is Yahushua's ruach. And when he tells me to do something, if I do it, then that's good. Otherwise, we can't hold up anything. Here we go. This Behavior Revolution translation is a Yahushua-inspired 21st century fusion, a fusion of colloquial everyday English, incorporating the original names, Hebrew names, only names, of our Creator, Messiah and his people. So using the original Hebrew names, this version cuts the corners, answers the questions, and has no chapters or verses. How are we going to look up stuff? You can't. You're not supposed to look up stuff. You're supposed to read it like a letter. These are all letters, instructions. They're not made to pull out a sentence here and lift it up and go, this is what we have to do. No. You can't do that with a normal letter. Won't make sense. It's not made for quoting and researching. It's made to be read and understood and loved. So, there. So it has no chapters and verses. It reads easy like a book or a letter and flows beautifully for all generations of the bride. Basically, it's a complete word for word overhaul. Overhaul it. How would it sound if Yahushua was talking to us today? Because the moment in time that he chose to step into has nothing to do with us. What if he'd waited another 2,000 years and chose to walk the earth today? Would he have said the same things? Would he have behaved the same way? He would have behaved the same way, but he wouldn't have said the same things because they were all into agriculture. That's not how we are today. Today, in the digital age of technology, all his illustrations and parables would have been all digital talk, tech talk, Wouldn't have had anything to do with farming. So But I've still kept to these original things because we want to keep the accuracy of it. These scriptures reveal Yahushua's deliverance plan. Yahushua's deliverance plan to restore his bride through an eternal blood covenant. The men who wrote the scriptures were not scholars, university graduates, or intellectuals. None of them. Paul was up there, but none of them. They were simple, everyday people who heard Yahushua's voice and wrote it down. Heard his voice and wrote it down. How would the scripture sound if it were written in the 21st century? This is the very essence and heart of this user-friendly translation for all ages. One of my favourite scriptures here, 𝗪𝗪 or Isaiah 28. For with babbling lips and a foreign tongue, Yahushua speaks to this generation, saying, this is the rest, give it to the weary. See how real he is, just laid back. This is the rest. Give it to the, give it out. We hold on for. Give it to people. This is the rest. Give it to the weary. This is the refreshing. They wouldn't listen. Who will listen? Who will listen? So it talks about babbling lips. We've been talking about lips a lot the last week or so. So this prophecy says, I'm going to speak to people with babbling lips and a foreign tongue. That's the English language. The English language, what's written here, the English language is a babbling cocktail of sounds made up from various languages that came before it. It's also the most common form of communication on this planet. It's the most common form of communication that we all understand. Most people, learn it for business, study, economics, the language. So let's speak it. Make it easy. Make deliverance easy instead of having to research Hebrew all the time. For there to be any harvest, the word sown must be easy to understand, mustn't it? And the eternal message of deliverance must be brought forward through time and behaved in a 21st century context, so that Yahushua's power to overcome is available without having to learn a second language. Why do we all feel like we've got to learn a second language? We're going to come to that. So we've been talking about the babbling lips. Babbling lips. The one true language. This is the message that came forth this week, guys. So this is really fresh. This is why it's exciting. The one true language we all need to learn is not Hebrew. It's not Hebrew. Well, didn't Yahushua speak Hebrew? When he said, let there be light, wouldn't he have said it in Hebrew? Yes. We already know that. The whole language, the whole earth, the whole population of the earth spoke Hebrew up until the Tower of Babel. Everybody spoke Hebrew. It's the divine tongue, or the clean, whatever they want to call it. It is the language of the Creator. It has life because the Creator has life. It's not the same life that we speak. And when the New Jerusalem comes down, the wedding feast and all that happens, we might be speaking Hebrew again. But if that's the language, if that's the only language Yahushua speaks, then how do you understand it? Do you hear Hebrew in your head when you hear Yahushua's voice? Do you hear Hebrew? I don't. I hear English. When Yahushua talks to me, it's in English. How can he do that? Does he have a translator app or something? No. Guy asked me that during the week. What language? It's every language. Yahushua speaks every language. Yahushua speaks to us in the language that we understand. And if one day, when we're all resurrected and transformed, if we end up speaking, which we probably will, because it's his language, if we all end up speaking Hebrew, so be it. We'll all understand it then. But until then, what did the prophecy say? I'm going to speak to them on the tongue, on the babbling lips and foreign tongue. So we know this is the way to do it, because why bring back all these Hebrew messages through time and then go, okay, I've got all these amazing gems for you guys, but you don't have it because you don't understand Hebrew. I understand Hebrew, you don't. So I'm better than you. So if you want to understand my message, you better cough up, That's not Yahushua. The one true language we all need to learn is not Hebrew. What's the language then? The scriptures have all been translated into English for us. Scriptures have all been translated into English for us. We have the true names of the Father and Son. which are our entrance into the throne room of Yahuwah, the true names of the Father and Son. Allow us entrance into the throne room of Yahuwah, where Yahushua is seated and governs his realm, our hearts. Our relationship with Yahushua starts after we have repented and been immersed. The immersion invites Yahushua's spirit into our hearts, where he circumcises our hearts of stone and gives us a new heart, which makes us a new individual. This newness affords us the ability to know the heart and mind of our Father and to understand the requirements he expects of us. Isn't that amazing? You can have this experience. If you're going through this video and you are crying out for some answers, and you have just been listening to teachings, or you're just new to this, and what's this? What's this? Yahushua? I've never heard this name, or I thought it was Yeshua. I thought it was Yahweh. No, that's a whole different thing. Jehovah. You know, come into the true name and be immersed in the true name. His name is the key of all knowledge. Yahuwah. It opens the door. Who said he was the door? Yahushua is the door. The key opens the door. So we come to the Father through the Son. It's phenomenal. As we read Yahushua's instructions, we find out the way he wants us to live and react to the world around us. We also now have new ears and eyes that help us avoid certain situations that usually we would dive into and end up walking away wounded. When we first come to Yahushua, we are constantly being wounded because we're idiots. Excited, inspired, but we're idiots. We think because it's so simple to us and we've just had this amazing revelation and just awakeness inside us, that everybody around us is going to want to have it too. No. Friends and family all fall away. If they haven't yet, it's just a matter of time. Friends and family all fall away because, we've gone in there, sprouting our mouth off, thinking we have the right to, because we've all come out of religion in some form or another. And we all end up walking away wounded, and Yahushua doesn't want that. He's trying to protect us. That's why he's teaching us about behavior. Don't go in there. I'll go before you, and I'm behind you as well. He goes up behind. He's protecting us. So if we go in somewhere that he hasn't prepared the way, we end up wounded. Because if you're going to talk to somebody that he hasn't prepared and he hasn't called, you're just an idiot, aren't you? You're trying to reason with a zombie. We are traveling and moving day after day amongst the walking dead. Navigating through the walking dead on a daily basis. So, back to the text. So in our request for a real relationship with Yahushua, we realize that we're putting ourselves in a position where Yahushua will test our application with flogging, chastisements, disciplines, and reproving that will make us grievous. Do you understand that? This is what the real experience is, and I'm going to talk to you about different facets of the real experience as we go on. There are different experiences that you can choose, but if you want the real one, and be the bride, the remnant bride, this is the journey. Floggings, chastisements, disciplines, and reprovings. Testing our application. Application of what? Application of what? You get some fancy form of medication. What do? You read the back of it to see how to apply it. What's the application instructions? So he's going to test us on our application. What instructions have we been given? His instructions, the Torah. Torah is not some religious, it just means instruction. Make it simple, Mark. Instruction. Yahushua's instructions are given to us, and then we're going to get tested on how we apply them in our lives, how we behave them. So Yahushua wants a clean bride, empty of worldly behavior. Empty of worldly behavior and full of the behavior of his word. One who will not faint under pressure. Our commitment must be challenged and tested according to his instruction. And we need to prove our own genuineness to him, not the other way around. We need to prove our own genuineness to him, not the other way around. The things you are going to hear on these videos are not going to be popular with the religious status quo, who are satisfied with leaving everything up to the Messiah. I've been washed in the blood and I can do what I want. All that. He's nailed it all to the cross and all that rubbish they go on with. This isn't going to be popular, but this is the truth, I assure you. This is the true way. Your commitment must be challenged. Yeah? After maturing the testings of Yahushua, you will have understood the new language Yahushua wants his family to speak. Remember, we're trying to work out what the new language is. It's not Hebrew. And that's why there's been such a pressure for us to learn Hebrew and go there. And all the scholars and every teachers, they're all sprouting Hebrew all the time. They're lacing it all through their scriptures and everything. So like, you're in the middle of a wonderful flow with Yahushua reading something, and then there's a Hebrew word there that you don't understand what it means. It's like, this used to give me the tom tits. Like, why do we have to do a course on Hebrew when I'm in the middle of talking to Yahushua? He's in the middle of talking to me, and then there's a Hebrew word. Fortunately, I know what most of them mean now, but before, it used to make me so angry. Like, if I want to learn Hebrew, I'll go and learn Hebrew. I'm sorry. It makes me so angry the way that teachers are doing all this stuff. Make it easy for everybody. Nobody speaks Hebrew. We speak English, so express it to us in English. Go and find all the gems that you want to find. We don't want to know the process, we just want to know the answer. Don't post pages and pages and pages of explanations and dictionary and lexicon and all this sort of stuff. Just give us your conclusion. We don't want to know all that. Make it simple. And if somebody is seeking to know more about how you came up with what you came up with, they'll ask. If nobody asks, what does that tell you? They're happy with what you've come up with. So, make it easy. The new language Yahushua wants his family to speak is not Hebrew. We are told we can hear him speaking to us, and that he will guide and protect us from the front and behind. There you go. He will guide and protect us from front and behind. So if he's not behind us, in front of us, and you go in somewhere, you'll walk out wounded. Doing or saying what we hear from Yahushua is a combination of speaking and behaving his word. So we come to the understanding that the new language believers are crying out for is actually a new behavior. The new language believers are crying out for is actually a new behavior. And the wonderful thing about this is it's a personalized behavior. There is a standard of behavior, and it's obvious if you've been through this experience. It says that after maturing the testing of Yahushua, you will have understood the new language Yahushua wants his family to speak. So if you're going through this experience, you are understanding the new behavior Yahushua's working through you. And you understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling, because of the way you're behaving. If you want to feel better about your life, about your relationship with Yahushua, start exercising, start applying the Torah, because that's what you've been tested on, your behavior. Behavior is worship. I just want to go and worship. I miss going to church because I used to worship you. You used to worship and sing, and worship is behavior 24/7 every day of the year. That is our behavior. We worship through our behavior. And you can do it anywhere, anytime. So let's get to the crux of this. This was so exciting. The prophecy. We talked about the prophecy about the babbling lips and the foreign tongue. Now we're going to talk about the prophecy of the clean lip. The prophecy of the clean lip in the last days is not a language, but a behavior. The prophecy of the clean lip in the last days is not a language, but a behavior. We're in the last days, guys. This is how Yahushua's moving in these last days. He's not moving the same way as he did with Musha, with Abraham, with Daud. He's not moving the same way he moved when he walked the earth himself. He's moving, same behavior, but completely different context. The instructions transform. Nothing is ever abolished. He came to fulfill and breathe life into every. Do not think that I came to do away with the instructions of the Torah. No way. I came to fulfill them, breathe life into them, make them alive. The earth, the skies will not pass away till one jot or one tittle of the Torah is fulfilled. All these things he said, but nobody will grasp. Don't you understand that? He didn't come to do away with that. He came to breathe life into it. So we've all been deceived. We've all been deceived. Let's compare these two texts. Let's read it from the Bible. Zephaniah 3:9. This is what this prophecy of the clean lip we're talking about. This is where it comes from. Zephaniah 3:9. For then will I return to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one accord. And whenever we've read that, a pure language, it always means Hebrew. It's got to mean Hebrew, because that's the pure heavenly, that's his language. We've all got to get back to that place of understanding and speaking the Hebrew. If he wanted us, it's his fault, really. It's his fault. I mean, everybody spoke it already and he went in there and spread it. So is it his fault, or did he do it on purpose? If he wanted us all speaking Hebrew, he wouldn't have scattered our languages. He's the one who scattered. We were the disobedient ones, mankind, but still, he could have done it any way he wanted. He chose to scatter the languages and send us on our merry way into all the four corners of the world. And now we're there, living like pagans, speaking the language that's been morphed into over the last few thousand years. So that's the state we're in. And that's the state he prophesied to call us out of. And now we've got a scripture saying he's going to return to his people a pure language. So we've naturally, all the teachers have jumped on the bandwagon and go, oh, it must be Hebrew. What else could it be? Can't be Greek, because that's riddled with paganism. In fact, many of them in the Christian thing think it is Greek. They think it's Greek. Shows you where they're at. It can't be German. It can't be English. I mean, that's the most common language in the world, but that's not a pure language. How do we find this pure language? Well, let's look at the BYNV scriptures, yeah? Let's go there. What's the pure language that we have to, do we have to speak it? Zephaniah 3, for then I shall turn to the peoples a clean lip. So what did the other one say? Pure language. Pure language. If you don't understand the pure language like I understand it, you better work harder. You better come to temple. You better come to the synagogue, pay and do your time and pay your penance and get in there and pull your finger out and learn the pure language. Look at this. Clean lip. For then I shall turn to the peoples a clean lip, so that they should all call on the name of Yahuwah to serve him with one shoulder. Shouldering the burden together. There's a whole amazing understanding about the shoulder. It basically meant a behaviour. It was talking about behaviour as well. Shouldering the burden to get this burden and responsibility together. So let's go into this. The third millennial Bible and many other translations, man has slipped. In the third millennial Bible and many other translations, man have slipped in the deceived words pure language. Just slipped it in there, pure language. The BYNV, however, renders it a clean lip. For years, man has thought Yahushua was going to change our language to a new one. And many have thought we have to learn Hebrew. Yahushua gave us this clue that we all have to shoulder the situation together, which speaks of a behaviour. Therefore, the clean lip is a behaviour, not a language, and we need not listen to the interpretations of men in robes, men in suits and beards and hats and zeets and men. Listening to the interpretations of men in robes who do filthy things. We need to listen to Yahushua, who speaks to us through the power of his Spirit. This came to us this week through Yahushua. So if you're not listening to Yahushua and you're just reading books all the time, what are you going to get? Read as much as you like, but you've got to be listening, because Yahushua talks to you because he speaks to us in between the ink on the page. Yeah, sure, read the ink on the page, but when you're listening to Yahushua and understanding the context through the same Ruach spirit that wrote it, it's not what's on the page, it's what jumps out at you from among the ink on the page that is the thing. So if you're just teaching the ink on the page, I mean, that's fair enough for people who are new and fresh to this and don't know the ink on the page, but when you're listening to Yahushua, he brings stuff out of the text. Like, look at this. How would this come about? It's not a pure language, it's a clean lip. And it's talking about behavior. The clean lip is a behavior. So we need to listen to Yahushua, who speaks to us through the power of his spirit, and follow his instructions in the clean lip behavior. When you look carefully at this drawing below, what is it to you? What do you see in that picture there? Likewise, we must look carefully when we read the scriptures to find the language of behavior. We must look carefully when we read the scriptures to find the language of behavior. So the context in the 21st century reading scripture, which was written thousands of years ago, how can that book be relevant to us? Multiple different men wrote it. None of them knew each other, most of them. And now it's 4,000 or 5,000 years later. How can that be relevant to us today? The culture's not relevant. The fashion's not relevant. The food's not even relevant. How can that book mean anything to me in my day? Unless it's behavior. Behavior is the only universal language, clean lip, that exists outside of time and space. So it must be a behavior that we're looking for. And that's what the bride, that's what genuine people are crying out for. And they come into religious institutions, Messianics, Christians, Nazarene, they come into these movements and they get spoon-fed all this stuff, and they come under another teacher, come under another yoke. You know, a yoke isn't supposed to be burdensome and bondage. A yoke is a teaching. It's supposed to, restore us and give us life. And these men in robes, men in suits, men in beards, men in hats, men in zeets, men in black, men in, we're on a path. The Hebrew word is dirak, and I'm going to go through this one quickly, because our path is very important. Just like the clean lip is a behavior, your path is a behavior as well. Your path is a course of life, a mode of action, along a way by conversation, custom, journey, manner through toward, a lifestyle choice, a behavior. Your path, what path are you on? It's a personalized path, personalized training plan that you've been given. The person next to you is not on the same path as you. They might be in the same belief, same ruach, same everything, but your path is very different, because while your behavior, you can be the same behavior, you've got to overcome different things to them. In Yirmiyahu, Yahushua says, come stand here and check out the old paths. Come here, son, come and check out the old paths of behavior, where the way is good and clean. It used to say ancient paths. Come and check out the old paths of behavior, where the way is good and clean. Come walk in it and find rest and peace for yourselves. But they said, forget it. We're not going that way. The old paths are obedient behavior and have nothing to do with speaking or learning the Hebrew language. The old paths are obedient behavior. Over the years, those in the Hebrew roots movements have done very well traveling back in time, so to speak, to unlock the mysteries of Scripture for us, revealing the key of knowledge and the power of deliverance and overcoming in the one and only true name of Yahushua our deliverer. But the pathway is not a Hebrew path. That's what they're all saying. We've got to go back to the ancient paths, and we've got to wear this and wear this and wear this and wear this. The Hebrew roots movement went back and said, what is it? The original language was Hebrew, so if we want to find out the truth, we've got to go back there and find it. Once you've found it though, we don't want to go back there. We don't want to go back and live like them. We don't want to go back and dress like them, do anything like them. Find out what they did and the truth of it and bring it back to us in the 21st century so we can look at it and go, okay, this is because deliverance doesn't change. Good and evil doesn't change. Good and evil behavior doesn't change. And us needing deliverance from evil doesn't change either. So find out what this is and how do we bring this message, which doesn't change because it's a behavior, in time, and let's live it today. So they've done a great job doing that. However, the pathway is not a Hebrew path. Don't take us back there. We're staying here. We live in the 21st century. That culture was back then. So now that we know how to look up words and find out their original meanings and have the capacity to travel back to Hebrew, then what? The pathway of Yahushua's blood covenant spans through all time and generations and is expressed through the correct context of behavior in our modern, everyday life and language. So the fundamental essence and truth of the message is not altered or watered down in any way. Because even though the lifestyle, languages and customs have changed incredibly since the days of Scripture, the pathway of behavior of loving obedience to Yahushua's instructions is a universal language in itself. The pathway, the behavior of loving obedience to Yahushua's instructions is a universal language. That's the language. That's the clean lip we should be going back to. So this pathway of loving obedience to his instructions is universal language in itself, which cannot be restricted to any time period. Cannot be restricted to any time period. It's powerful and a light that shines just as bright today in Yahushua's bride, those who choose to behave it, as it did back in the early days of the earth. It's phenomenal. Question. In the midst of everybody rushing to get back to the Hebrew language, rushing to get back to the Hebrew, will anyone just speak English and make it easy for us? Behavior evolution says yes. Computer says yes. These scriptures use the name of Yahuwah. This will be interesting if you haven't gone through any of these videos before. I'm using Yahushua, the name of the Messiah, all through from the very beginning. In the beginning, Yahushua created everything because it was Yahushua. We now understand that. That's been one of the most phenomenal revelations of all time, who the creator of the universe is. The Father and the Son are one. And in the end, when we see him come back and we're in the new city, are we going to be sitting next to a Trinity? A duality? Are we going to be sitting next to who's going to be sitting next to the Father and who's going to be sitting next to the Son? Who's going to be talking to the Son? No, there's only one. Yahushua was all the fullness of the Father. He had it in him. So, until the arrival of Yahushua as the promised deliverer, mankind only knew about the Creator, Yahuwah. But all through the Hebrew text, there is an untranslated 𝗓𝕗, which is the signature of Yahushua, and shows us that he himself is the author of these scriptures from beginning to end. He is the living Word made flesh and the physical, visual representation of our Creator. Whenever he appeared to Abraham, to Yitzchak, to Yaakov, whenever he appeared to people, it was Yahushua. Not just the physical, but the visual representation of Yahushua. Visual representation of the Father, Yahuwah, is Yahushua. Because they're one. It's just the way he chose to express himself in human terms that we could understand. Yahushua is the 𝗓𝕗. It's his identity mark. And all through the Hebrew, if you were going to study Hebrew, you will see this untranslated 𝗓𝕗 all through the text, which shows that Yahushua was there. When Musha was born, when the earth was being created, Yahushua was there. Yahuwah and Yahushua are one and the same. This is the only page you will see Hebrew symbols on in this translation. That's what Yahuwah looks like in Paleo Hebrew, and that's what Yahushua looks like in Paleo Hebrew. The Creator told us that His name is Yahuwah for all generations. So for those of you who are having trouble with me putting Yahusha all through there because His name is Yahuwah for all generations, don't worry. Yahusha, the Son, came in His Father's name, Yahu, which means I am. I was, I am, I will be. So the Father's name, Yahu, means I was, I am, I will be. And the only difference between their two names is the added symbols for deliverance, the Shah at the end. So the name of Yahusha is a complete revelation of who the Creator of the universe really is. It was Yahusha who orchestrated each encounter and conversation throughout all the scriptures to wake up, deliver, and restore His bridal people to blood covenant marriage once again. So by using the name Yahusha, you are saying Yahuwah, because Yahuwah and Yahusha are the same name. The only difference is Yahusha has the Shah in the deliverance. So Yahusha means Yahuwah is my deliverance. So Yahuwah is deliverance. Yahuwah deliverance. So this Behavior Revolution translation uses the name of our Messiah Yahusha for all narrative purposes. However, prior to Yahusha's physical, so I've used his name of Yahusha for all narrative purposes. Yahusha was talking to Yahusha. Yahusha said this to this. Yahusha did that. However, prior to Yahusha's actual physical birth, when specific individuals are talking, the name of the Father, Yahuwah, is used because that was the extent of their understanding of who He was at the time. So when Musha comes down and says, Yahuwah told me this, I've written Yahuwah because that's what he would have said. You've got to have it factual. So why would anyone who's been grafted into Yahusha's bride, Yisrael, through immersion and tasted the sweet redemptive power of Yahusha's blood, ever want to call on any other name than Yahuwah is my deliverance? Are you ready to be refreshed? Lots of love. Yahusha's first huge step in restoring his covenant marriage home to the protection of the garden in Eden was the tabernacle in the wilderness, which was atoned by blood, washed with water, and anointed with oil as his set-apart dwelling place on this earth. And just as his essence filled the darkness of the four corners of this planet at creation, Yahusha was now claiming back a small part of his earth, wherever the ark sat. Within the walls of the tabernacle, a place made with human hands. This is very exciting for us in the 21st century who understand that Yahusha's bride is now the dwelling place, not made with human hands, but earthen vessels that are delivered by blood, cleansed in water through the power of his name, and anointed with the oil of his spirit, so that through our physical tabernacle, Yahusha's higher dimension can connect with ours, bringing health, favor, peace, and protection. That was the whole purpose of Yahusha dwelling amongst them, to bring health, favor, peace, and protection. So we no longer have a physical tabernacle on the earth made with human hands. It's not a tent. It's not a building. It's not a temple or a synagogue or a church. We don't have any of those things. We are the living dwelling. We are the place where the dimensions are aligned. I saw some amazing animation about that last night, about the dimensions. It's just a shame they had all the names wrong. It was a Christian thing, but this is the higher dimension. It was a circle, and this is the earthly dimension. But where there's blood and where the circles connect, just in this little area here, the circles connect. I'll put it up behind me while I'm talking. The dimensions connect because of his blood. There's a doorway, and he is the door through his blood. And that happens in our tabernacle, in our living dwelling place. That's why we put a picture there, because we're pulling together the similarities of creation with the tabernacle. Yahushua wanted it across on the whole earth, but Adam and Eve threw a spanner in that. Ⅎ𝗏 entered, and Yahushua can't be where there's darkness, can't be where there's evil. So he had a plan. How can he rid the earth of evil without destroying mankind? That was the dilemma. Because in order to destroy evil, he'd have to destroy all of us too. because we are evil. So that was the dilemma that he faced, and that's what he set out to do from the minute Adam and Ḥawā disobeyed him. He went into deliverance mode, loaded up his deliverance app, and went into deliverance mode and started slaughtering lambs to clothe them, and went from there. The whole purpose of the scripture. Why are we reading scripture? To show us Yahushua's eternal covenant of deliverance in order for us to be used as vessels for his loving kindness. Of course, this can only happen through a wilderness experience where Yahushua separates us from everyone and everything of the world. Why are you feeling like you're feeling? Why have people left you and abandoned you? Why have you been kicked out of places? Why do you not want to be here? This is normal. You're not some weird, hermit. You're not some weird ostracized person. You're meant to be going through this. You're being separated, severed, pruned. How does it feel when you're cut off from things? It hurts. This is what Yahushua's doing. Separating us from everything. Training us through flogging, chastisement, rebuking and discipline, so that we run our race and overcome the evil that wants to invade our vessels, and stop us from being his dwelling place, his most treasured possession, and true witnesses of his revolutionary behaviour. Those on this personalised pathway of overcoming the world and the evil that controls it are Yahushua's bride, and they are getting ready for the return of their King, who will cleanse the world, whole earth with fire, as he once did with water, and transform her in the twinkling of an eye, to take on first fruit bodies like him, and attend the marriage supper of the Lamb. This new Jerusalem will descend from the clouds onto a restored earth, and be like no other dwelling place ever known, consisting of each and every person in the bridal company, all lively stones fitted together to shine forth the powerful esteem of the Creator of the universe for eternity. Eternity. Do you think eternity means a long, long time? I used to think that. You see the word everlasting or eternity and think, oh, how long is eternity? How can we even fathom eternity? Eternity has nothing to do with time. So you can take time out of the equation. That's what eternity, if you look up the Hebrew, that's what eternity actually means. It means outside of time. Time's not even an issue. So our way of thinking is totally skewed. It's not forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever infinity, because that's measuring time. You can't measure Yahushua lives outside of time. It's not just a line like time is, from the past to the future. It's not a line. Time is all, there is no time. He lives outside of time. So he can be in the past, present and future, which is time as well, all at once, because he exists, and we'll be entering that realm. So it's not about eternity being a long time. There is no time. It's a totally different plane of existence. Through the tabernacle and the Shabbat, Yahushua is gaining ground and taking back the 4 dimensions of his creation, time and space. The tabernacle separates the 3 dimensions of space on whatever ground it sat on, and the Shabbat separates the dimension of time from any other block of time for the whole 7th day. Yahushua can't dwell where there is evil, and now he had restored and set apart a portion of his creation so that he could dwell on earth in his time and space. Our bodies, which are the space, and the Shabbat day, which is a set apart time. So we are the set apart dwelling place, and the Shabbat is a set apart day. We know that. So time and space, he's taken back time and space. So how we behave, so our bodies and the Shabbat and how we behave on them is important to Yahushua, because until the final shofar and the destruction of all wickedness on this planet, the only time and space of his creation where he can dwell is in his obedient, overcoming bridal people. So when we have the behavior of rest on the Shabbat day, we are actually clothed. When we have the behavior of rest on the Shabbat day, we are actually clothed with Yahushua's esteem, anointed with the oil, making us set apart from all other people on the planet. The same can be said for having the right obedient behavior in our tabernacle every day of the week. The earthly dwelling place of Yahushua, looked after by his bridal priests. Yahushua is our great high priest. He's got the 12 stones there. He's got Yisrael on his heart. Something I finished up this book on was the concept of the fact that Yahushua didn't die. We've always been taught Yahushua loves everybody. Yahushua died for the whole world. No, he didn't. Yahushua didn't die for the whole world. He died for his bride. He died for Yisrael, and only Yisrael. He made no other covenants with any other people but Yisrael. I came for the lost sheep of the house of Yisrael. That's the lost sheep, the 12 tribes of Yaakov, of Yisrael. So there is no deliverance found in anyone else, and there is no deliverance outside of Yisrael, because the only way you find deliverance is through the blood covenant of deliverance, and that blood covenant was only raised up with Abram. So what about all the nations, the pagan goyim? We need to be grafted into Yisrael. Simple. Keep going, guys. See you next episode. Bye-bye.